Well, local inventors are gearing up for the South African Innovation Summit, which kicks off next month. The event brings together entrepreneurs, investors, corporates, academia and policymakers from over 30 countries to accelerate innovation and inspire sustained economic growth across the continent. Well, joining us now is Buntu Maja, the Director of Entrepreneurship, Ecosystem and Digital Innovation of the Summit. A very good morning to you and thank you so much for joining us.
Good morning, Keo. Thanks so much for having me.
Well, let's just begin talking about some of the innovations from earlier years or even earlier months that had to be accelerated into implementation due to this coronavirus pandemic.
Sure. I think fantastic question, because as we've seen, entrepreneurs have had to take drastic measures to survive and may thrive, and some of them thrive in this environment. So types of entrepreneurs or startups that are working in digital marketplaces have those are, say, what we would call the Uber model, that are connecting buyers and sellers, whether that's grocery shoppers and grocery shops themselves, or even, say, beauty product providers, and then the people that still have to continue with their lives and do meetings at home are able to buy online. But it's not only, say, these online products that in marketplaces that are thriving or had to be accelerated, but even industrialists, for example, that were making unique compositions of detergents for maybe an oil producer, for example, and then they'd use that in their factory. If that factory had to shut down, this company still has to continue. So they may ask themselves, what can we still do with our facilities? And of course, we've seen them then making compositions of sanitizers, for example, or 3D printing entrepreneurs. We've seen going into making new types of masks, and then they're able to contract with some of South Africa's large corporates in order to make those at bulk. So some of these entrepreneurs have thrived, and their businesses have been accelerated because of the challenges in these times.
And did they find any difficulty with perhaps sourcing some of their supplies, especially at level 5 of the lockdown?
Yes, I think those that thrived the most, I would say, is that they had the ability to make what supplies they needed, or at least the supplies that they needed. They had the capacity as well as the materials for that, and so they weren't really dependent on international imports or, say, international supplies in order to make what they were doing. So those are the ones that really thrived because they're actually making the products themselves. If they were just selling them directly or buy and sell, then those ones had a little bit more difficult time.
And what can we expect to see at this year's Innovation Summit?
Fantastic. So this year, one of the key things that is important for entrepreneurs is that they don't operate in isolation. Entrepreneurs operate within an ecosystem. And yes, they are the star of the Innovation Summit, for example, but at the Innovation Summit, we're bringing in, that ecosystem that will help entrepreneurs thrive and enable them to thrive in this time. So there, for example, we will be having speakers who will be talking about their experiences as entrepreneurs and how, as successful entrepreneurs, they have pivoted in this time. Some of the conversations will be about investment. Interestingly, across the continent, we've seen a tick up of investment in June and July because of course investors are trying to find good places to put their finance, and because the markets have collapsed all over the world in some parts, and startups have come to provide good solutions in this COVID pandemic. So we'll be talking about how to get investment ready especially if you are providing say solutions for the COVID pandemic, or say issues that are impacting the economy in that sense. And one of the key things of being in an ecosystem, for example, now it's very difficult for me as an entrepreneur to meet my next client or my next partner or potential investor at a corporate function or at or say at my co-working space. You know, these places do happen online, but it's more difficult to meet. And so if we are then able to connect people at a virtual event, by networking them in a proactive way, we're increasing the chances of you as an entrepreneur finding the right person that you need to talk to now so that your business can thrive next year. So there's a lot of networking that we facilitate, a lot of entrepreneurs that are pitching their latest innovations for the COVID pandemic, but just in general. To funders and investors. And I think that's an inspiring space to be, to see entrepreneurs working hard despite all of these challenges that we're facing and presenting what they've been working on.
And I suppose one of the pros then of having this summit take place virtually is that people who might not have been able to perhaps travel for the meeting for whatever reason would now be able to just sit at their laptop and just log on.
Yes, that's the very exciting part, especially for me as well, is the accessibility that we're able to provide. You know, if you weren't able to go down to Cape Town, now wherever you are in the world, in South Africa, if you have an internet connection, you can connect to an investor from Canada, who's sitting in Canada or sitting in Russia, or your next client sitting in India. So as long as you say are able to connect in this place, and we're not limited from a venue perspective, you know, as many people can join as those that, you know, want to join. And so the accessibility is so important for African entrepreneurs, South African entrepreneurs in this time.
And just lastly, what other trends are we expecting to see around innovation going forward?
Fantastic thought there. I think, you know, I'm very interested to see what's going to be happening in the work space or say workplace environment. I've seen that, you know, of course, as corporates are moving also at home, working from home, and businesses are working more from home, you see that restaurants, you know, shopping environments are less busy, and so e-commerce then has an opportunity to thrive there, whereby we're trying to sell from home, and I've also seen that, you know, innovations in logistics and fulfillment of these e-commerce is going to be boosted, because this has been a rather big barrier in South Africa and Africa in general, is infrastructure for us to get e-commerce to the place where it is, because more people are getting connected than those that are actual buying online. So some logistics startups, for example, that are able to do that last mile, those last deliveries in townships and at the peripheries of the urban environment, those types of startups are going to be thriving in this time, and as well as companies that are making more efficient their delivery routes, as well as, you know, their fleets of trucks, and I think as well, you know, in general, how because people were spending more time online, how people can connect. You know, there's companies, for example, that are finding new ways of providing high-speed connections in dense areas like Alexandra, which makes up a lot of, you know, of the demographics on the continent. They're able to provide high-speed internet so that people can stream, they can stream content and even be able to access some of these services that are going online.
Well, thank you very much, Buntu Maja, for joining us this morning. He is the Director of Entrepreneurship, Ecosystem, as well as Digital Innovation.